The house felt unusually quiet that night. Ayan, a teenage boy, was home alone for the first time in months. His parents had left earlier that evening to visit relatives in another city, trusting him to take care of the house for just one night. At first, he had been excited. The idea of having the entire house to himself felt like freedom. No rules, no interruptions, just peace and quiet. But as night fell, that excitement slowly faded. The silence inside the house began to feel different. It wasn't the normal kind of quiet. It was deeper, heavier. Every small sound seemed louder than usual. The ticking of the wall clock, the faint creaking of the wooden floor, even the soft hum of the wind brushing against the windows. Ayan tried to distract himself. He turned on the TV, scrolled through his phone, even played some music. But none of it helped for long. The feeling wouldn't go away. It was as if the house itself had become too still, too empty. By the time midnight approached, he decided to go to bed. He locked all the doors and windows carefully, checking them twice, just to be sure. Everything was secure. Still, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he couldn't shake off the strange unease growing inside him. It felt like something wasn't right, like the quiet wasn't natural. And deep down, a thought slowly crept into his mind. What if he wasn't as alone as he thought? Just as Ayan was about to fall asleep, a faint sound broke the silence. Knock. His eyes opened instantly. For a moment, he wasn't sure if he had really heard it or if it was just part of a dream. He stayed still, listening carefully. The house was quiet again, as if nothing had happened. He exhaled slowly, trying to calm himself. "It's nothing," he whispered under his breath. Maybe it was just the wind. Maybe something outside had hit the door. Old houses made strange noises all the time. He had heard that before. He turned onto his side, pulling the blanket slightly closer. Then, knock knock. This time, it was clearer. Ayan sat up immediately, his heart starting to race. That wasn't the wind. That wasn't random noise. Someone had knocked. The sound had come from the front door. He glanced at the clock on the wall. 12:17 a.m. Who would come at this time? A cold feeling spread through his chest as he slowly got out of bed. The floor creaked softly beneath his feet, making him pause for a second. The house suddenly felt darker, quieter, as if everything was listening. He walked toward his bedroom door, but stopped just before opening it. Another knock. Slower this time. More deliberate. Ayan swallowed hard, his hand hovering over the doorknob. Every instinct told him something was wrong. No one should be outside at this hour. And yet, someone was knocking, waiting, right at his door. Ayan slowly made his way toward the front of the house, each step heavier than the last. The silence around him felt unnatural, like the entire place was holding its breath. His eyes were fixed on the main door at the end of the hallway. The knocking had stopped. That made it worse. He hesitated for a moment, then carefully moved closer to the window beside the door. His heart was pounding so loudly it almost drowned out every other sound. Slowly, he leaned forward and peeked outside. Nothing, just darkness. The street outside was empty, covered in shadows. The faint light from a distant street lamp barely reached his house. The trees stood still, their branches unmoving. There was no sign of anyone standing there. Ayan frowned, confused. Maybe they left, he whispered to himself. But something didn't feel right. If someone had knocked just seconds ago, how could they disappear so quickly? He leaned a little closer to the glass, trying to see further into the darkness. His breath fogged up the window slightly as he scanned the area again. Still nothing. No movement. No footsteps. No sound. It was as if no one had ever been there. Ayan slowly stepped back, his mind racing. A strange uneasiness settled deep inside him. He told himself it was nothing, that he was overthinking it, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Because deep down he knew one thing. Someone had knocked, and whoever it was still nearby. Ayan had just turned away from the door, trying to convince himself it was over, when the sound came again. Bang! Bang! He froze. This time, the knocking was louder, sharper, more aggressive. It echoed through the house, making his heart jump into his throat. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't the wind. Someone was definitely at the door. Ayan slowly turned back, his chest tightening with fear. The door stood there, still and silent now, but the impact of those knocks lingered in the air. It felt like whoever was outside wanted to be let in badly. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice shaky. No answer. Just silence. That made it worse. If it had been a normal person, they would have responded, said something, called his name. But there was nothing, only that heavy, suffocating quiet pressing in from all sides. Ayan took a cautious step forward, then another. His eyes stayed locked on the door handle, half expecting it to move on its own. Another knock came. Bang. He flinched, stepping back instantly. The sound wasn't random anymore. It felt intentional, controlled, like whoever was outside was trying to send a message. Ayan's breathing became uneven as fear spread through his body. His mind raced with questions. Why wouldn't they speak? Why only knock? And why now in the middle of the night? The house no longer felt safe. It felt like a trap. And standing on the other side of that door was something that didn't want to be ignored anymore. Ayan stepped back from the door, his heart racing uncontrollably. The loud knocking still echoed in his ears, making it hard to think clearly. Fear had completely taken over now. This was no longer something he could ignore. He quickly reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. I need to call someone, he whispered to himself. His fingers trembled as he unlocked the screen and dialed his best friend's number. The phone rang once, twice. Then suddenly, call failed. Ayan frowned, confused. What? He checked the signal bars. 1 bar. Then none. The signal dropped completely. A cold wave of panic rushed through him. This isn't possible, he muttered, trying again. He moved around the room, holding his phone up, searching for a better signal. For a brief moment, 1 bar appeared again. He quickly hit call. The line connected for a second. Ayan. Hello. His friend's voice came through, broken and unclear. Someone's at my door. Ayan tried to speak, but before he could finish, the call cut off. Dead silence. No, no, no. Ayan whispered, his breathing becoming faster. He tried again. Nothing. No signal. It was as if the connection had been completely cut off from the outside world. Ayan slowly lowered his phone, his hands shaking. Now he was truly alone. The knocking had stopped again, but somehow, that made it even worse. Because now, there was no sound at all. No movement. No voice. Just the feeling that whatever had been outside was still there, waiting. And now, there was no one he could call for help. Ayan stood in the hallway, gripping his phone tightly, his eyes fixed on the front door. The silence after the failed call felt even more suffocating. It was as if the house had completely cut itself off from the outside world. He swallowed hard and slowly stepped closer to the door again. I just need to see, he whispered, trying to gather courage. The peephole. That was the safest way. He leaned forward, his breath unsteady, and carefully placed his eye against the small glass circle in the door. At first, he saw nothing, just darkness. The porch light outside flickered weakly, barely illuminating the area. Ayan squinted, trying to focus. Then, something shifted. A faint shape appeared. A shadow, standing very close to the door. Too close. Ayan immediately pulled back, his heart pounding wildly in his chest. He hadn't expected it to be right there. Whoever, or whatever it wasn't standing at a distance. It was right up against the door, as if it had been watching him from the other side. Ayan hesitated for a moment, then slowly leaned in again. This time, he looked more carefully. The shadow didn't move. It didn't knock. It didn't speak. It just stood there. Still. Unnaturally still. Ayan felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't make out any clear features. No face, no details. Just a dark outline, almost blending into the night itself. But something about it felt wrong. It didn't feel like a person. It felt empty, like something pretending to be there. Ayan stepped back slowly, his breathing uneven. Because deep down, he realized something terrifying. That thing outside wasn't trying to get in anymore. It was just standing there, waiting for him to do something first. Ayan backed away from the door, his heart pounding in his chest. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of what he had just seen through the peephole. That shadow, it didn't feel human. It didn't move, didn't react, just stood there in complete stillness. Then suddenly, his phone buzzed in his hand. Ayan flinched, almost dropping it. He quickly looked down at the screen. A message from an unknown number. His breath caught as he slowly opened it. Don't open the door. Ayan's eyes widened. What? He whispered. His fingers trembled as he stared at the message again. There was no name, no number he recognized. Just those 4 words. Don't open the door. He looked back toward the front door instinctively. The house was silent again, but the feeling hadn't gone away. If anything, it had become stronger. Who sent this? And how did they know? Ion quickly typed a reply. Who is this? He waited. A few seconds passed. No response. He tried calling the number, but just like before, there was no signal. The call wouldn't even connect. Ion's breathing became uneven as fear tightened around him. This wasn't normal anymore. Someone knew what was happening, but they weren't helping him. They were only warning him. He looked toward the door again. The shadow was still there, still not moving, still waiting. Ion slowly stepped back, gripping his phone tightly. If opening the door was a mistake, then what was he supposed to do? And more importantly, if the danger was outside, then why did it feel like something inside the house already knew his every move? Ion stood frozen in the hallway, his mind spinning after the strange message, "Don't open the door." His eyes kept shifting between his phone and the front door. The silence in the house felt heavier now, as if the warning had made everything even more dangerous. He slowly took a step back, then another. But as he did, something unexpected happened. A faint sound came from the front door again. Not a knock this time. A scrape, like something was dragging across the surface of the door. Ion's body stiffened instantly. "No, no," he whispered, shaking his head. The scratching sound grew slightly louder, slow and deliberate, moving across the wood as if something was testing it, studying it. Then, the door handle moved, just slightly, but enough to make Ion jump back in shock. His breathing became faster. His eyes were wide with fear. Whatever was outside, it was no longer just waiting. It was trying to get in. He looked around the hallway helplessly, as if searching for an escape that didn't exist. Then his phone buzzed again. Another message. Ion quickly looked down. "It knows you're inside." His blood ran cold. He looked at the door again, and for a split second, he felt it. Like the thing outside wasn't just pressing against the door anymore, but looking through it. Ion slowly backed away toward the hallway corner, trying not to make any sound. The scratching stopped. Complete silence returned. But this silence didn't feel safe. It felt like a pause, like something had stopped, only to listen more carefully. And Ion finally realized, whatever was outside the door was no longer guessing where he was. It already knew. Ion had now completely lost his sense of calm. After the strange message saying, "It knows you're inside," his entire body felt frozen with fear. He slowly moved away from the hallway and went straight toward his room, thinking it might be safer to lock himself inside. But even as he reached his bedroom door, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Not normal quiet, but a deep, unnatural silence, like everything had stopped breathing. No knocking, no scratching, no phone signals, just a heavy emptiness surrounding him from all sides. Ion quickly entered his room and shut the door behind him. His hands were shaking as he tried to lock it. The sound of the lock clicking gave him a small sense of relief, but it didn't last long, because after a few seconds, he heard something. Footsteps. Inside the house. Ion froze instantly. He lifted his head slowly, trying to listen carefully. The footsteps were faint at first, coming from the hallway. Slow. Controlled. Like something was walking without any hurry. His heart started pounding again. "No, this can't be happening," he whispered. He moved closer to the door of his room, pressing his ear against it. The footsteps continued. One step, pause, another step, pause. And then they stopped. Right outside his room. Ion held his breath, his entire body tense. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then, a soft creak came from the hallway floor. Something was standing there, just outside his door. And Ion realized something terrifying. The thing that was outside the main door was no longer outside the house. It was inside now. Agar Aap Cheho to main 10th final part, climax twist, BISI level P Bonadita, Hoonfire. Ion had now completely lost his sense of calm. After the strange message saying, "It knows you're inside," his entire body felt frozen with fear. He slowly moved away from the hallway and went straight toward his room, thinking it might be safer to lock himself inside. But even as he reached his bedroom door, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Not normal quiet, but a deep, unnatural silence, like everything had stopped breathing. No knocking, no scratching, no phone signals, just a heavy emptiness surrounding him from all sides. Ion quickly entered his room and shut the door behind him. His hands were shaking as he tried to lock it. The sound of the lock clicking gave him a small sense of relief, but it didn't last long, because after a few seconds, he heard something. Footsteps. Inside the house. Ion froze instantly. He lifted his head slowly, trying to listen carefully. The footsteps were faint at first, coming from the hallway. Slow, controlled, like something was walking without any hurry. His heart started pounding again. No, this can't be happening, he whispered. He moved closer to the door of his room, pressing his ear against it. The footsteps continued. One step, pause, another step, pause. And then they stopped, right outside his room. Ion held his breath, his entire body tense. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then, a soft creak came from the hallway floor. Something was standing there, just outside his door. And Ion realized something terrifying. The thing that was outside the main door was no longer outside the house. It was inside now. Agar Aap Cheho to main 10th final part, climax twist, BISI level P Bonadita, Hoonfire. Against the door, trying to control his breathing. The footsteps had stopped right outside his room, and now there was only silence again. But this silence felt different, heavier, closer, as if something was standing on the other side of the door, listening to him breathe. He slowly took a step back. His hands were shaking uncontrollably. He looked around his room, searching for something, anything, that could help him. But there was nothing. Just walls, darkness, and the feeling that he was trapped. Then, a soft knock came on his bedroom door. Not loud, not aggressive, just one slow, careful knock. Ion's eyes widened in fear. He didn't answer. Another knock came. Then a pause. Then a voice, very low, almost whispering. Ion. His blood turned cold. That voice sounded like his mother. But that was impossible. His parents were out of town. The doorknob slowly started turning. Ion stepped back until he hit the wall. His heart was beating so fast he thought he might collapse. The door creaked open slowly. Very slowly. Darkness filled the doorway. But there was no clear figure. Only a shadow standing still. Then suddenly, his phone on the bed lit up again. A new message appeared on the screen. We never left the house. Ion slowly turned his head toward the bed. And in that moment, he realized something horrifying. There was no outside anymore. The thing that had been knocking had never been outside the door. It had been living in the house with him all along. And now, it was finally done waiting.